Hey, greetings. Michael Didier here. Thank you for joining me. We're going through Torah. Jacob is the topic of discussion today, and he's going to continue to be this topic of our discussion for a number of weeks to go. I like to divide his life into 4 different periods. His early years, 0 to 77. Early years. I'm still in my early years. During that time, he sat at the feet of Shem and Eber for like 56 years of those first 77, or over half. Then he went to Haran. He was in Haran for 20 years, 77 to 97. He then left Haran in hot pursuit by Laban at 97. It was after he left Laban that he met Esau. Esau was coming with 400 men to destroy Jacob, the mothers and the sons, and steal all of his possessions. Now Jacob, remember, Yehovah delivered Jacob. Praise Yehovah. He sent angels to defend Jacob from Esau. They came in the form of 2,000 armed men in 4 camps. And they, with their horses and their weapons of war, terrified Esau. He fell off his horse twice. He's the commander of the army, fallen off his horse twice. Well, by the time Esau got to Jacob, he was a man with a contrite heart, a broken spirit, as it were. And his attitude was changed. Well, Jacob went on, and it said in Torah last week that he went to first Sukkot. And then he went to Shechem. And by the time he got to Shechem, he was 99 years old. Well, 98 and a half years old. Year and a half he was in Sukkot. Now he's coming to Shechem. And this is where we're going to pick up our story today. I've got a lot that I want to cover. This is actually the second time that I'm giving this class today. My recording didn't work and I have to do it again. Well, you know what? You are important to me. And I'm going to do what it takes to get this information out to you. Let's begin in Yasher chapter 33. And in some time after Jacob went away from the borders of the land, he came to the land of Shalem. That is the city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, and he rested in front of the city. And he bought a parcel of the field which was there, from Hamar's seed, the people of the land. Men people of the land, for this says 5 shekels. Torah says 100 shekels. And Jacob there built himself a house, and he pitched his tent there, and he made booths for his cattle. Therefore he called the name of the place Sukkot. He made sukkah, a bunch of sukkahs for the cattle. The plural form of sukkah is Sukkot. And Jacob remained in Sukkot for a year and 6 months. There it is, 97 year and 6 months, 98 and a half. Oh, so I was telling you about the 4 stages of Jacob's life. 0 to 77, then 20 years in Haran, then from 97 until 130, he was in Canaan. And then from 130 to 147, he was in Egypt. This chapter that we're discussing today is setting the tone of Jacob's life in Canaan. Jacob's not going to be a man, and his sons are not going to be men that are going to be followers. They are going to be men who are leaders in this world. And that's exactly what Yahovah is raising up in these last days, is men who are going to be leaders in this world, leaders of their families, leaders of their communities. They're going to be the great ones in Yahovah's kingdom. And this story that we're going to read right now sets the tone for the beginning of Jacob's life. In Canaan, we're going to have some events that are going to happen with Israel's seed all over the world in these last days, which is going to set the tone and put the fear of Elohim into the hearts and minds of the people of the land. We're not going to see how Jacob affects the leaders of the Canaanites this week, but we're going to see it next week. And we're going to see it has put fear into their lives. Let's continue with the story, verse 5. At that time, some of the women of the inhabitants of the land went to the city of Shechem to dance and rejoice with the daughters of the people of the city. Some of the women of the inhabitants of the land went to rejoice with the daughters of the people of the city. Oh, isn't that interesting? The daughters of the people. I keep telling you, people are men. Men people. Yahweh doesn't talk about lady people unless he mentions lady people in particular. Well, look what it says. And when they went forth, then Rachel and Leah, Jacob's women, with their families, also went to behold the rejoicing of the daughters of the city. Makes me wonder what's going on right now. Could this be a spring equinox celebration? And Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, also went along with them and saw the daughters of the city, and they remained there before these daughters, whilst the people of the city were standing by them to behold their rejoicing. The people of the city, who are they talking about? Men people. Were standing by them to behold their rejoicings, and all the great people. Great. What makes you great in the world? Morality? No. They're the L of the city. The lawmakers and the judges, those are the great people, the ones that others fear. And all the great people of the city were there. Let's talk about one of them. There he is. And Shechem, the son of Hamor, the prince of the land, was also standing there to see them. And Shechem beheld Dinah, Jacob's daughter, sitting with her mother before the daughters of the city. And the damsel pleased him greatly. And he there asked his friends and his family, saying, whose daughter is that sitting among the women, whom I do not know in this city? And they said unto him, surely this is the daughter of Jacob, the son of Isaac, the Hebrew. Oh, isn't it interesting? They all know who Isaac, the Hebrew is, the son of Abraham, the Hebrew. Got a name for himself. Jacob's going to have a name for himself. Jacob, the Hebrew. Israel, the Hebrew. Wait and see. Who has dwelt in this city for some time, a year and a half. And when it was reported that the daughters of the land were going forth to rejoice, she went with her mother and maidservants. Look at that. She's with Rachel, Leah, Zilpah, and Bilhah, and their families. There must be others that are there to sit amongst them, as thou seest. And Shechem beheld Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. And when he looked at her, his soul became fixed upon Dinah. And he sent and had her taken by force. Look at this. He sent and had her taken by force. He didn't do it. He had somebody else do his dirty deeds. Had her taken by force. And Dinah came to the house of Shechem, and he seized her forcibly and lay with her and humbled her. And he loved her exceedingly and placed her in his house. Dinah won't be home for dinner tonight, Jacob. Oh my. And they came and told this thing unto Jacob. And when Jacob heard that Shechem had defiled his daughter Dinah, Jacob sent 12 of his servants, his Avadim, to fetch Dinah, male servants, from the house of Shechem. And they went and came to the house of Shechem to take away Dinah from there. How come Jacob didn't go with them? I got a theory on why Jacob didn't go with them. We're going to see some things today. Jacob seems rather sedentary. Why is that? What's going on in Jacob's life? His daughter's just been taken and he didn't go to the city with the servants to rescue his daughter? Where are the sons? Let's find out. And when they came, Shechem went out to them with his men and drove them from his house. How many men does Shechem have that he can scare away 12 of Jacob's servants? I'm sure he didn't send the weak ones. And drove them from the house. And he would not suffer them to come before Dinah. But Shechem was sitting with Dinah, kissing and embracing her before their eyes. Talk about rubbing it in. And the servants of Jacob came back and told him, Jacob, saying, when we came, he and his men drove us away. And thus did Shechem unto Dinah before our eyes. Wow. And Jacob knew, moreover, that Shechem had defiled his daughter. But he said nothing. Why didn't he say anything? And the sons were feeding his cattle in the field. And Jacob remained silent till their return. Wouldn't you think he would jog out there and say, hey guys, we got to do something for your sister? How old are the kids? Did you know that if Jacob is 98 and a half, that his eldest, Reuben, is only 14 years old? Dinah is 8 years old. And the youngest brother, Benjamin, hasn't even been born. And before his sons came home, Jacob sent 2 maidens from his servants. These would be Shifkah, daughters, from his servants' daughters, to take care of Dinah in the house of Shechem, and to remain with her. And Shechem sent 3 of his friends to his father. Here's Shechem sending his friends to his dad, Hamor, the son of Chedicam, the son of Parad, saying, "Get me this damsel for a woman." And Hamor, the son of Chedicam, the Hivite, came to the house of Shechem. Hivites. He is a Canaanite, the son of Hivi. Hivi is the son of Canaan. So he's a Hivite. And Hamor, the son of Chiddekem, the Hivite, came to the house of Shechem, his son, and he sat before him. And Hamor said to his son Shechem, "Is there no woman among the daughters of thy people that thou wilt take a Hebrew woman who is not of thy people?" He's concerned. Is there no woman amongst the daughters of thy people? The daughters of thy people. The men people have daughters. That thou wilt take a Hebrew woman who is not of thy people? Isn't that funny? Here is a Canaanite appalled at the thought of somebody taking a daughter from the Hebrews. Proverbs 29 says something to this effect. The wicked, the righteous are an abomination, and to the upright, the wicked is an abomination. We see what they do as an abomination before our Elohim. They see what we do as an abomination before their Elohim. But whose Elohim is going to win out? And Shechem said to him, "Her only must thou get for me, for she is a delight in my sight." And Hamor did according to the word of his son, for he was greatly beloved by him. Shechem, the namesake of the city. Probably a man who's always gotten what he wants by one way or another. If you can't get it legally, you work another way to get it. So he just took Dinah. And Hamor went forth to Jacob to commune with him concerning this matter. And when he had gone from the house of his son Shechem, before he had come to Jacob to speak to him, behold, the sons of Jacob had come from the field, as soon as they heard the thing that Shechem, the son of Hamor, had done. So he's coming to Shechem, Hamor is coming to Jacob, but before he gets there, the brothers come in from the field. They found out. And the men were much grieved concerning their sister. And they all came home fired with anger before the time of gathering in their cattle. And they came and sat before their father, and they spoke unto him, kindled with wrath, very much grieved, fired with anger, saying, surely death is due to this man and to his household, because Jehovah Elohim of the whole earth commanded Noah and his seed that man shall never rob nor commit adultery. You hear that? This is what? 300 years? No, I can almost do it exactly. 210 plus 97, 130 is 33, 210, 240 years approximately from the time Yehovah is going to speak from the top of Mount Sinai. They already know that we're not supposed to steal. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Noah commanded it. Duh! Jehovah doesn't change. His word endures forever. Kept the same commandments on the other side of the flood. In the antediluvian world. Now, behold, Shechem has ravaged and committed fornication with our sister. Committed adultery, as it were, made her a harlot. It's going to say at the end of chapter 34 in Genesis. And not one of the people of the city spoke a word to him. Hear that? They saw what was happening, but they didn't say a word. You know, there's a reason I left the kingdom of my birth, the United States of America, when I was, how old was I? 45-ish. 2000. I knew that the sins of the world were going to be incumbent on me as one of their people. Do you want the destruction to come on you for those sins? Listen what he says. Surely thou knowest and understandest that the judgment of death is due to Shechem and his father and to the whole city on account of the thing which he has done. Why the whole city? Because they didn't see anything when they saw the wickedness going on. And whilst they were speaking before their father in this matter, behold, Hamor, the father of Shechem, came to speak to Jacob the words of his son concerning Dinah. And he sat before Jacob and before his sons. Oh my goodness. The very culprit we're talking about, well, the culprit's father, comes walking into camp to talk to Jacob and his sons. And Hamor spoke unto them, saying, the soul of my son Shechem longeth for your daughter, talking about Jacob and the sons. I pray you, give her unto him for a woman, and intermarry with us. Give us your daughters, and we will give you our daughters, and you will dwell with us in our land, and we will be as one people in the land. One people in the land. Here's what they said, almost exactly the same thing in Torah. Then we will give our daughters to you, and you will take your daughters to us, and we will dwell with you, and we will become one people. One people. Dangerous thing. You shall not make covenants with the people of the land from where I'm bringing you. Nor shall you make covenants with the people of the land where I am bringing you. Nor shall you keep their ordinances. What are we taught? Obey the laws of the land. No, completely incongruent with what Torah says. He says, for our land is very extensive. So dwell ye and trade therein and get possessions in it and do therein as you desire. And no one shall prevent you by saying a word to you. And Hamor ceased speaking unto Jacob and his sons. And behold, Shechem his son had come after him. And he sat before them. Look at this. Shechem, the man who took the daughter and raped her, has just shown up in the camp. I'm sure the brothers are ready to grab him by the neck and strangle him. And Shechem spoke before Jacob and his son, saying, may I find favor in your sight, that you will give me your daughter, and whatever you say unto me, that I will do for her. Ask me for abundance of dowry and gift, and I will give it. And whatever you shall say unto me, that I will do. And whoever he be that will rebel against your orders, he'll die. This is a man who has the power of life and death in his community. Only give me the damsel for a woman. And Simeon and Levi answered Hamor and Shechem his son deceitfully. They lied, saying, all you have spoken unto us, we will do for you. And behold, our sister is in your house, but keep away from her until we send to our father Isaac concerning this matter. For we can do nothing without his consent. Where is Isaac right now? I'll show you where he's at. We talked about it. Isaac is in Hebron, right down here. Here's Jerusalem. Here's Hebron, Mamre. This is where the cave at Machpelah is at. Jacob and his sons are up here in Shechem, between Mount Ebal and Mount Gerizim. He had just come from Sukkot. Sukkot's probably going to be more in this area. But here's Mahanaim, where he met with the man that supposedly wrestled with him throughout the night. Ooh, that's an interesting story. And Mizpah is where he met with Esau. They split up. Esau went back south, and Jacob went to the west, all the way to Sukkot. Stayed there for a year and a half, then moved to Shechem. This is where we're at right now. And from Shechem to Hebron is 37 miles, as the crow flies. More, if you got to go over the hills in Underdale. More than a day's ride, probably. You could make 37 miles. I would think you could make 37 miles in a day. You'd have to hustle. But you got to go 37 miles back the other way once you got the information, don't you? For he knoweth the ways of our father Abraham. Remember, Abraham's gone now. He died in chapter 25. This is chapter 34. He died when the boys were 15 years old. So if Jacob is now 99, he died 85 years before. Wow. And whatever he saith unto us, we will tell you. We will conceal nothing from you. And Simeon and Levi spoke this unto Shechem and his father in order to find a pretext. Remember, they're lying. And to seek counsel what was to be done to Shechem and the city in this matter. And when Shechem and his father heard the words of Simeon and Levi, it seemed good in their sight. And Shechem and his father came forth to go home. And when they had gone, Jacob's sons said unto their father, saying, behold, we know that death is due these wicked ones, and to their city, because they transgressed that which Elohim has commanded unto Noah and his seed, and his sons, and his seed after them. And also because Shechem did this thing to our sister Dinah in defiling her. For such vileness shall never be done among us. No, you don't take another man's woman. I mean, you could throw in kidnapping. Kidnapping is another capital offense. Now, therefore, know and see what you will do, and seek counsel and pretext what is to be done to them, in order to kill all the inhabitants of the city. That is the foundation. They're not open to discussion. The inhabitants of the city are going to be killed. We have to have a pretext on what is going to be done in order to kill them. Wow. Well, Simeon's got an idea. Remember, he loves his sister Dinah. And Simeon said to them, here is a proper advice for you. Tell them to circumcise every male amongst them as we are circumcised. Remember, they were all circumcised from the 8th day. And if they do not wish to do this, we shall take our daughter from them and go away. This is what we're going to tell them. Remember, they've already made the decision. They're going to destroy the city. And if they consent to do this, and will do it, then when they are sunk down with pain, we will attack them with our swords as upon one who is quiet and peaceful, and we will slay every male person among them. Every male person. It's always the men who are going to be killed first. And Simeon's advice pleased them. And Simeon and Levi resolved to do unto them as it was proposed. And in the next morning, Shechem and Hamor's father came again unto Jacob and his sons to speak concerning Dinah, and to hear what answer Jacob's sons, could be Jacob's seed, would give to their words. And Jacob's sons spoke deceitfully again. The next morning, they couldn't possibly have made a 37 round trip. No, 74 mile round trip in that short time. And Jacob's son spoke deceitfully to them, saying, we told our father Isaac your words, and your words pleased him. But he spoke unto us, saying, thus did Abraham his father command him, from Elohim, Yahovah of the earth. Yeah, probably says Yahovah, Elohim of the whole earth. That any man who is not of his seed, remember the ones who are of his seed are going to be circumcised already on the 8th day, that should wish to take one of his daughters shall cause every male belonging to him to be circumcised, as we are circumcised, and then we may give him to our daughter for a wife, a woman. Truth? Not truth. How about partially true? You remember, the ger is the Gentile who comes to us, leaves the Elohim, and joins us. He becomes the ger who dwells with us. At Passover, the ger is commanded to be circumcised with all the men of his household. What they're saying here, shall cause every male belonging to him to be circumcised, as we are circumcised. Okay? Then we can give our daughters to that man as a woman. But these guys don't have a circumcised heart. You can have a circumcised private without a circumcised heart, and it means nothing. Lots of men are circumcised. I was circumcised from the 8th day, but I was a heathen. Turned from a Gentile to a ger back in 2000. That would be wrong numbers. 45 years. And then 9 years ago became Israel at Passover, when I took part in the Passover and became as the native-born son, the heir of the promise, the spiritual son of Yahovah. Then I'm qualified to take a woman in Israel. Till then, I'm not. Now, we have made known to you all our ways that our father spoke unto us. We cannot do this of which you spoke unto us, to give our daughters to uncircumcised men. Yes, it's true. No, it's not true in them. They're not circumcised in the heart. For it is a disgrace to us. But herein we will consent to you. to give you our daughter. And we will also take unto ourselves your daughters, and will dwell amongst you, and be one people, as you have spoken, if you will hearken to us, and consent to be like us, to circumcise every male belonging to you, as we are circumcised. And if you will not hearken unto us, to have every male circumcised, as we are circumcised, as we have commanded, then we will come to you and take our daughter from you and go away. Gonna have to take her by force, I'm sure. And Shechem, the father of Hamor, heard the words of Jacob's sons. And the thing pleased them exceedingly. And Shechem and his father Hamor hastened to do the wishes of Jacob's seed, sons. For Shechem was very fond of Dinah, and his soul, his nephesh, was riveted on her. His thoughts and his emotions were riveted on her. And Shechem and his father Hamor hastened to the gates of the city. That's where the L of the city are at. The lawmakers and the judges are in the gates of the city. And they assembled all the men of their city and spoke unto them the words of Jacob, saying, we came to these men, Jacob's sons, and we spoke unto them concerning their daughter. And these men all consented to do according to our wishes. And behold, our land is of great extent for them, and they will dwell in it and trade in it, and we shall be one people. We will take their daughters, and our daughters we will give to them for women. But only on this condition will these men consent to this thing, that every male amongst us be circumcised as they are circumcised, as their Elohim commanded them. Remember, their Elohim is not Shechem and Hamor's Elohim, or their seed's Elohim. And when we shall have done according to their instructions to be circumcised, then they will dwell amongst us, together with the cattle and possessions, and we shall be one people with them. And all the men of the city heard the words of Shechem and his father Hamor. Then all the men of the city were agreeable to this proposal, and they obeyed to be circumcised. For Shechem and his father Hamor were greatly esteemed by them, being the princes of the land. And on the next day Shechem and Hamor his father arose up early in the morning, and they assembled all the men of the city in the middle of the city, and they called to Jacob's seed, sons, who circumcised every male belonging to them on that day and the next. Who's doing the circumcision? Jacob's sons. And they circumcised Shechem and Hamor his father, and the 5 brothers of Shechem. And then every one rose up and went home, for this thing was from Yehovah against the city of Shechem. And from Yehovah was Simeon's counsel. Let's have them be circumcised. Simeon's idea was from Yehovah, in order that Yehovah might deliver the city of Shechem into the hands of Jacob's 2 sons. Chapter 34. And the number of all the males that were circumcised were 645 men, and 246 sons, not children, sons. But Chedekam, son of Perad, the father of Hamor, the grandfather of Shechem, and his 6 brothers would not listen unto Shechem and his father Hamor, and they would not be circumcised, for the proposal of Jacob's sons was loathsome in their sight. And their anger was greatly roused at this, that the people of the city had not hearkened to them. Oh my goodness, what's going to happen? And in the evening of the second day, they found 8 small sons who had not been circumcised, for their mother had concealed them from Shechem and his father Hamor, and from the men of the city. And Shechem and his father Hamor sent to have them brought before them to be circumcised, when Chetakam and his 6 brothers sprang at them with their swords, and sought to slay them. Ambush! And they sought to slay also Shechem and his father Hamor, and they sought to slay Dinah with them on account of this matter. And they said unto them, What is this thing you have done? Are there no women amongst the daughters of your brethren the Canaanites, that you wish to take unto yourself the daughters of the Hebrews? Pui! Whom ye knew not before? And will do this act which your fathers never commanded you? Hear that? Their fathers never commanded them to take Hebrew daughters. Do you imagine that you will succeed through this act which you have done? And what will you answer in this affair to your brethren, the Canaanites, who will come tomorrow and ask concerning this thing? And if your act shall not appear just and good in their sight, what will you do for your lives? And me for our lives, in your not having hearkened to our voice? They're going to kill you. Chetakam's going to kill him. They're damned if they do, damned if they don't, aren't they? They don't know. Jacob's coming after them. And if the inhabitants of the land and all your brethren, hear that? The brethren are the inhabitants of the land, the sons of Ham, Ham's seed, shall hear of your act, saying, On account of a Hebrew woman did Shechem and Hamor his father and all the inhabitants of their city do that which they have been unacquainted? Which they had been unacquainted, and which their ancestors never commanded them? Where then will you fly? Or where conceal your shame? All your days before your brethren, the inhabitants of the land of Canaan. Now therefore we cannot bear up against this thing which you have done. Neither can we be burdened with your yoke upon us, which our ancestors did not command. Behold, tomorrow we will go and assemble all our brethren, the Canaanitish brethren who dwell in the land, and we will all come and smite you and all those who trust in you, that there shall not be a remnant left from you or them. Well, what's going to happen now? Listen, Hamor and Shechem are going to change their tone. Listen. And Hamor and his son Shechem and all the people of the city, the men of the city, heard the words of Chetakam and his brothers. They were terribly afraid of their lives at their words, and they repented of what they had done. Too late. Too slow, Joe. And Shechem and his father Hamor answered their father Chetakam and his brethren. And they said unto them, All the words which you spoke unto us are true. Now, do not say nor imagine in your hearts that on account of the love of the Hebrews, we did this thing that our ancestors did not command us. Talk about backtracking, huh? But because we saw that it was not their intention and desire to accede to our wishes concerning their daughter, as to our taking her, except on this condition. So we hearkened to their voices and did this act which you saw. Why? In order to obtain our desire on them. What's their desire? to get all of the possessions of Jacob for their own. And when we shall have obtained our request from them, we will then return to them and do unto them that which you say unto us. We beseech you then to wait and tarry until our flesh shall be healed. Remember, this is the second day. And we again become strong. And we will then go together against them and do unto them that which is in your heart and in ours. And Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, heard all these words which Cheticum and his brothers had spoken, and what Hamor and his son Shechem and the people of the city had answered him. Hear that? She knew. I wonder if all this happened to preserve the life of Jacob and his sons, who may have been destroyed by them eventually anyway. Remember, the wicked hate the righteous hate the wicked. They're both an abomination to one another. Can't exist together. And he hearkened and sent one of the maidens. Remember, Jacob sent two of the maidens. So now she's hastened, it says, and she hastened and sent one of her maidens that her father had sent to take care of her in the house of Shechem to Jacob, her father, and to her brothers, saying, thus did Cheticum and his brothers advise concerning you. And thus did Hamor and Shechem and the people of the city answer them. And when Jacob heard these words, he was filled with wrath. Look at this. Finally, Jacob is filled with wrath. And when Jacob heard these words, he was filled with wrath, and he was indignant at them, and his anger was kindled against them. And Simeon and Levi swore and said, as Jehovah liveth, the Elohim of the whole earth, by this time tomorrow there shall not be a remnant left in the whole city. Hear that? Listen to that phraseology. And Simeon and Levi swore and said, as Jehovah liveth. As Jehovah liveth. You hear what's going on? He's making a vow. I heard these words once before. Abram, coming into his father's house, Terah, after being in the house of Noah for 49 years, said this, as Jehovah liveth, if I do not destroy all these images in 3 days, may Jehovah destroy me. Remember, that's the reason, the destruction of those images are the reasons he got thrown into the fiery furnace, remember? Here's these boys making the same thing, the same kind of vow. As Jehovah liveth. In other words, if they're not dead, all the remnant left in the city is not dead by tomorrow, Simeon and Levi are going to die. And 20 young men had concealed themselves, who were not circumcised. And these young men fought against Simeon and Levi. And Simeon and Levi killed 18 of them, and 2 fled from them and escaped to some lime pits that were in the city. And Simeon and Levi sought for them, but they could not find them. Remember these 2 men. They're going to be important later on. And Simeon and Levi continued to go about in the city, and they killed all the people of the city at the edge of the sword. And they left none remaining. The people of the city. Who are they killing? Lady people? No, he's killing the people of the city. Men people! And there was a great consternation in the midst of the city. And the cry of the people of the city ascended to heaven. And all the women and children cried aloud. And Simeon and Levi slew all the city. Who'd they kill? He says they left not a male remaining in the whole city. And they slew Hamor and Shechem his son at the edge of the sword. And they brought away Dinah from the house of Shechem, and they went from there. I'm sure she was traumatized. You know, she's 8 years old. These boys, 12 and 11. And Jacob's son went and returned and came upon the slain and spoiled all their property, which was in the city and in the field. And whilst they were taking the spoil, 300 men stood up and threw dust at them and struck them with stones. Who are these men? Old men of the city, perhaps? They're throwing stones. When Simeon turned to them, and he slew them all with the edge of the sword. And Simeon returned before Levi and came into the city. And they took away their sheep, their oxen, their cattle, sheep, goats, and zeon, goats and sheep. We're talking about two things, flocks. That's where they took away their flocks, and their oxen, and their cattle, and also the remainder of the women and little ones, the Nashim and the Taf. And they led all these away, and they opened the gates and went out and came unto their father Jacob with vigor. It sounds like they still got energy left. Now listen to what Jacob says. And when Jacob saw all they had done to the city and saw the spoil that they took from them, Jacob was very angry at them. And Jacob said unto them, What is this you have done? What is this that you have done to me? Behold, I obtained rest among the Canaanite inhabitants of the land, and none of them meddled with me. And now, look what you have done to make me obnoxious to the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites. And I am but of a small number, and they will all assemble against me and slay me when they hear of your work with your brethren, and I and my household will be destroyed. Does that sound like a man of faith? And Simeon and Levi and all their brethren with them answered their father Jacob and said unto him, Behold, we live in the land, and shall Shechem do this to our sister? Why art thou silent at all that Shechem has done? And shall he deal with our sister as a harlot, a whore in the streets? And the number of women whom Simeon and Levi took captive from the city of Shechem, what kind of women did he choose? Let's find out. Whom they did not slay was 85 who did not know a man. And amongst them was a young damsel of beautiful appearance and well favored, whose name was Bunah. Look at that. Beautiful appearance, well favored, pretty face, great body. And Simeon took her for a woman. And the number of the males which they took captive must be young males. They're going to make them servants. And did not slay was 47 men. The rest they slew. I want to read something to you. I wasn't going to, but I decided I'm going to do it anyway. All right. Now, let's see what we can do here. When you go to war against your enemies, and Yehovah your Elohim delivers them into your hand, and you take them captive, and you see among the captives a beautiful woman, and desire her, and would take her to be your woman, then you shall bring her home to your house, and she shall shave her head, trim her nails. She shall put off the clothes of her captivity. Look at that. She's shaving her head. Why is she shaving her head? It has to do with covering. She has no covering. Her father's dead. All the males have been killed. She has to understand she's got no covering, and a woman needs a covering. Even the Canaanites knew that. We don't know it. Shows you how far we've fallen. Shave her head, cut her nails. Listen what they do next. She shall put off the clothes of her captivity. The clothes of her captivity. Didn't say put on clothes. It's a take off the clothes of her captivity. So now she sounds like she's shaven, has her nails cut, and she's laid bare in your house for 30 days. And mourn her father and her mother a full month. After that, you may go to her and be her Baal. And she shall be your woman. And it shall be, if you have no delight in her, then you shall set her free. But you shall certainly not sell her for money. You shall not treat her brutally. Why? Because you have humbled her. Interesting. We're going to see this in just a couple verses in Genesis. Bear with me. And all the young men and women that Simeon and Levi had taken captive from the city of Shechem were servants to Jacob's sons and to their seed after them, until the day of Jacob's sons going forth from the land of Egypt. Okay, well, we're going to stop here and we're going to go to Genesis 34. Genesis 34 is almost cliff notes for the main book, the main story that we just read. It's an outline, really, of what we're going to see, or what we just saw, and what we just read. Here's Genesis 34. Now Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she had borne to Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. You know, in your mind, when you read this and read this, what do you think? How old is Dinah? Did she go by herself? It says Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she had borne to Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. Most of us, myself included, said, well, girl, you're not supposed to be out unsupervised among the daughters of the land. No wonder you got in trouble. But we found out that's not the case, that she wasn't by herself. Look what it says in Yasher. Now, also, look at my note here. Jacob's 99, Simeon's 12, Levi's 11. Dinah 8. Oh my goodness. Look what it says. At that time, some of the women and the inhabitants of the land went out of the city of Shechem to dance and rejoice with the daughters of the people of the city. And when they went forth, then Rachel and Leah, Jacob's women, with their families also went to behold the rejoicing of the daughters of the city. And Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, also went along with them. The point is, Dinah's not alone, is she? Here it said she's got Rachel and Leah. Look what it says down here. And they said unto him, surely this is the daughter of Jacob, the son of Isaac the Hebrew, who has dwelt in this city for some time. And when it was reported that the daughters of the land were going forth to rejoice, she, Dinah, went with her mother and the maidservants. So the maidservants are with them as well as the rest of the family, to sit amongst them as thou seest. Dinah wasn't alone. Dinah's not a mature woman. Prepubescent, probably 10 years old. And when Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite, the prince of the country, saw her, he took her and lay with her and violated her, humbled her. Oh my goodness. Here's what I wrote. Shechem, in his taking of Dinah, treated her like a virgin captive taken in battle with an enemy. He made her his concubine when he stole Dinah from her father. This is an adulterous action. Hear that? An adulterous action. Shechem took another man's woman for himself. We always think of adultery as being a married woman. In a sense, adultery is a bigger picture than that, isn't it? Now add to that the fact that Dinah was only 8 years old. The only daughter of Jacob, 99, and the only sister of 10, older brother, 14 to 8 years old. And now that she has been defiled, made tameh, unclean, no righteous man will want her. And last but certainly not least, Dinah is still being held captive in Shechem's house. I said, ugh, this means war! Look at what happens when we go to war against our enemies. I want to show you what it says in verse 2 once again. Look at this. And when Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite, the prince of the land, it says, he saw her. The word is ra'ah. Ra'ah. He saw her. He took her. That's lakak. Took lakak. He laid with her. This is the adulterous part. This is the fornication. I don't even want to use that word, fornication. This is the sexual aspect of it. Shakab, to lie down, sexual connection. And he humbled her. Yes, Anah, looking down on her, he humbled her. Now, I just read to you what it said in Deuteronomy. I want you to see the words of Deuteronomy once again. And when thou go to war against thy enemies, and Yahovah your Elohim delivers them into their hand, thy hand, and thou take them captive, and thou see, there it is, Ra'ah, and thou see among the captives a beautiful woman, and desire her, and take her, see her, take her, there it is, for thee, for a woman. You take her for thee, to thee, for a woman. You could say it like that. Then thou shalt bring her home to thy house. And you shall shave her head, trim her nails. She shall put off her clothes, put off the clothes of her captivity, remain in thy house, and mourn her father and mother a full month. After that, thou may go into her, and thou shalt master her. Remember I said Baal, her. Here it is right here. This is the word Baal. Thou shalt master her. The Proverbs 31 woman, it says she is I forget how it goes, a blessing to her, it says husband. The word there is master. Baal, to her Baal. And she shall be thy woman. And it shall be, if thou have no delight in her, then thou shalt set her free. But thou shalt certainly not sell her for money. Thou shalt not treat her brutally. Why? Because thou hast humbled her. There's that same word, Anah, humbled her. All the same characteristics of what Shechem did to Dinah. He treated her as a conquest of war. We weren't at war, but he took her like we were. I put, what happened to Dinah was an act of war. something we do to our enemies. Dinah was taken from her father's house, and Jacob did not give his consent. What did they say? Because he had done a disgraceful thing in Israel by lying with Jacob's daughter, a thing which ought not to be done. Here, this is the Hivites, or the lineage of the Canaanites. I think this is interesting, especially what I found here in Yasher. Look what it says. This is Genesis 10. Canaan begat Sidon, Heth, the Jebusite. Heth is the Jebusite. The Amorite, the Girgashite, the Hivite, the Archite, the Sinite, the Arvadite, the Zemarite, the Comathite. Afterwards, the families of Canaan were dispersed. Well, here Yasher talks about the sons. Notice they call them by their tribe. Instead of Hivi, it says Hivites. Instead of Archi, it says Archites. Instead of Girgashi, it says Girgashite. Instead of Hivite, it says Hivites. Instead of Archi, it says Archites. Instead of Sini, it says Sinite. Instead of Arodi, it says Arvadite. And instead of Zimodi and Kamathi, it says Zamarites and Kamathites. Interesting. So the sons, these are the sons' names. The Genesis recording is the people that come from those sons. Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivites. His soul was strongly attached to Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the young woman and spoke kindly words to the young woman. Both of these places where it says the young woman is this word right here. They have it recorded as ha na 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 na'ar, ha na'ar, ha na'ar. But ha na'ar is another word altogether. It's this word right here. For young son, there's na'ar. The ha says the, na'ar says young son. But we're talking about a na'ara, a damsel. There's two words. One is, I think, prepubescent. That is this one right here. The yalda, a lass, a damsel, a girl. And here is the na'ara, post-pubescent. Oh, it says infancy to adolescence. Maybe that's a more general term, and this word right here, yalda, is a more specific term. That must be what's going on. Here is a young son, infancy to adolescence. But here is the boy, lad, or offspring. This is a younger boy. This is the word yeled, yeled. We talk about the yeled oftentimes. Sometimes it seems like the young girls are included as the yeled. But two words for young men and two words for young women. So Shechem spoke to his father Hamor, saying, "Get me this young woman as a wife." Well, look at what it says now. Get, lakak, take me the young woman. Look at what they put. Ha yelda. Ha yelda. One, they're using the masculine form. Now they're using the male form, or the female form. Ha yelda. For a woman. There it is there. For, this says for, lamed, can say two. For isha, for a woman. But he's already treated her as a concubine. And Jacob heard that they had defiled Dinah, his daughter. Now his sons were with his livestock in the field. So Jacob held his peace until they came. Isn't it interesting that it leaves out altogether the fact that Jacob sent servants to Shechem's house to bring his daughter back, and a larger force rose against them by Shechem and his men, and then taunted them with him kissing on Dinah, probably fondling her while they looked on. Report comes back to Jacob. Why isn't he getting up? How come he's so sedentary? Instead of going to his sons in the field, he's going to wait for his sons to come home to him. Something's odd about this. And Jacob heard that he defiled. There it is, tameh. Tameh. He defiled. Made her unclean. Now his sons were with his livestock in the field, and Jacob held his peace until they came. Then Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out to Jacob to speak to him. But before he could get to him, the sons of Jacob came in from the field, and when they heard it, the men were grieved and very angry, because he had done a disgraceful thing in Israel by lying with Jacob's daughter, a thing which ought not to be done. Now, while they're talking, here comes Hamor, just like we saw in Yasher. But Hamor spoke to them, saying, "The soul of my son Shechem longs for thy daughter. Please give her to him as a woman." Nefesh, the soul, the nefesh, the thoughts and the emotions. You know, animals have nefesh, but men have something more. They have a heart. They were created in Yehovah's image originally, in his likeness. But after Adam fell, they were all created in Adam's image and in his likeness. But they still have a heart. They have a spirit. And this is something that Yehovah searches out. In Jeremiah 17:9-10, it says, "The heart is deceitful above all things, desperately wicked. Who can know it? I, Yehovah, search the heart. I test the mind, the emotions, the nefesh, to give every man according to his deeds." Every man, not woman, man, ish, according to his deeds, according to the fruit of his actions. Here's a man whose flesh, because of his thoughts and emotions, is lusting after Dinah. He asks, Hamor asks, please give her to him as a woman and make marriages with us. Give your daughters to us and take our daughters for yourselves. What does Yehovah have to say about that? Look at, here's the instructions that Abraham gave Elazar when he sent Elazar to Haran to find a bride for Isaac. He said this, "And I will make you swear by Yehovah, the Elohim of heaven, the Elohim of earth, that you will not take a woman for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, amongst whom I dwell." We are not supposed to take women from the daughters of the Canaanites. Remember, Ham sinned. His whole seed was cursed. His whole seed was supposed to serve the seed of Ham and the seed of Shem and the seed of Japheth. But instead we got a Nimrod. Now all of a sudden people are serving, Shem and Japheth are serving him by force. Not going to have it. Then Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and charged him and said to him, you shall not take a woman from the daughters of the Canaanites. Same chapter, 6th verse. Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him away to Paddan Aram to take himself a woman from there, and that as he blessed him, he gave him charge, saying, you shall not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan. Look what it says here in Exodus. Lest you make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land and play the harlot with their Elohim, their lawmakers and judges, and make slaughter to their Elohim. Oh my gosh, we're making covenants with them. Now we're eating the slaughters, making slaughters to their Elohim. In other words, we're killing our animals according to their requirements. That's what we're talking about. All the food that we get, all the meat that you get in the store, except for fish, is slaughtered according to their statutes and judgments and ordinances. That is meat slaughtered to other Elohim. It's instead of being done according to Yahovah's. We kill our own animals. Israel kills their own animals and eats them. We don't have foreigners kill our animals to their standards and their Elohim and then eat their meat. Doesn't happen. But we have 3 things. We talked about the first one, making covenants, eating the slaughters to their Elohim. And now the third one, and you take his daughters for your sons, and his daughters play the harlot with their Elohim, and make your sons play the harlot with their Elohim. We don't take foreign daughters. Here's yet another one in Deuteronomy. And when Yahovah your Elohim deliver them over to you, you shall conquer them and destroy them. You shall make no covenant with them, nor show mercy on them, nor shall you make marriages with them. There it is. Covenant and marriage. Can't have one without the other. Nor shall you make marriages with them. You shall not give your daughter to their son, nor take their daughter for your son, for they will turn your sons away from following me to serve other Elohim. So the anger of Yahovah will be aroused against you and destroy you suddenly. Don't take their daughters. But what are they saying? We will make marriages and make marriages with us. Give us your daughters to us and take our daughters for yourselves. So you will dwell with us and the land shall be before you. Dwell and trade in it and acquire possessions for yourselves in it. Then Shechem said to her father, this is Shechem talking to Jacob, and her brothers, let me find favor in your eyes. Whatever you say to me, I will give. Asked me, here it is, move this up, and ask me ever so much dowry and gift, and I will give it according to what you say to me. But give me the young woman as a wife. Well, now look at this. Deception, deception, deception. Here is Ha-Na'ar. Young man. But look what it says. They give it the wrong number. Look, it clearly says Nun and Resh Hey. This word says Nun and Resh. Young man. But they put the wrong strong number on it to make you think it's a woman. And they are talking about a woman, but they used the wrong word. Doesn't have the hey on it. Well, this happens all the time. But Jacob's sons, really, this is Jacob's seed. Jacob's seed answered Shechem and Hamor, his father, and spoke deceitfully because he had defiled their sister. Let's talk about this word defiled. I think it's something that we really got to get a handle on. This is it. Tameh. Defiled. Things that belong to the realm of Tameh are not acceptable or useful in being in the image of Elohim, the image of Yahovah. The things the Torah teaches belong to the realm of Tehor, clean, are indeed useful to being in the image of Yahovah. Here, he talks to the priests. Well, actually, he's going to talk to priests below here. Let me read this first. Yahovah therefore established within his kingdom of priests and a priesthood to serve as mentors and examples to the body of the redeemed. These are not my words. These are not Jeff Benner's, Glenn McWilliams' words. This priesthood, under the leadership of Aaron, his sons, and the Levites, were given two very specific functions among Israel's seed. First, they were to teach Israel's seed the boundaries of the self-revelation of Yahovah. Oh, I like that. Yahovah's word is all about the self-revelation of Yahovah. We always talk about knowing Yahovah and obeying his word by teaching the distinctions between Tehor and Tameh, between holy and unholy. Yahovah declared, and that ye may put a difference between holy and unholy, and between Tameh and Tehor, and that ye may teach Israel's seed all the statutes which Yahovah has spoken unto them by the hand of Moses. Bnei Yaakov. Here it is right here. Bnei Yaakov. This is Jacob's seed. Not Jacob's son, Jacob's seed. And they said to them, the righteous sons, said to Hamor and Shechem, we cannot do this thing to give our sister to one who is uncircumcised, for that would be a reproach to us. Remember, they said this a day later. They got this in the same conversation here in Torah. But on this condition, we will consent to you, if you will become as we are, as we. If every male of you is circumcised, then we will give our daughters to you, and we will take your daughters to us. And we will dwell with you, and we will become one people. Lies, lies, lies. This is all about putting them in a situation where they can destroy Hamor's seed, the people of Shechem. But if you will not heed us and be circumcised, then we will take our daughter and be gone. And these words pleased Hamor and Shechem, Hamor's son, and the young man. Here, look at what it says, young man. We're learning these words, ha-na'ar. They got the right word. Look at, now they got the right number with the right word. Before they had the woman's number with the man's word, young man. Now they got it right. Look what it says. So Ha-na'ar did not delay to do the thing because he delighted in Jacob's daughter. Look at what Torah says. He was more honorable than all the household of his father. Hello? We're talking about Shechem, the one who started this big brouhaha. You're saying he is more honorable than all the household of his father? Please, you gotta be kidding me. Who wrote this? Shechem is not an honorable man. Shechem is a thief, a rapist, a kidnapper, an adulterer. Honorable? You know, just because it says something in Torah, we got to think, you got to use your head. Use your minds. And Hamor and Shechem, his son, came to the gate of their city and spoke to the men of their city. They speak to men. Men speak to men. Men don't speak to other men's women, saying, these men are at peace with us. Therefore let them dwell in the land and trade in it. For indeed the land is large enough for them. So let us take their daughters to us as women, and let us give them our daughters. Only on this condition will the men consent to dwell with us, to be one people, if every male among us is circumcised as they are circumcised. Remember what he told Jacob, whatever you ask, we will do. And if we won't do it, we'll kill them. That's why they knew they could get away with it. If every male among us is circumcised as they are circumcised. But now look what it says. They didn't say this in Yasher, and I think this is really important. It says, will not their livestock, their property, and every animal of theirs be ours? Only let us consent to them, and they will dwell with us. This was their ulterior motive, wasn't it? They wanted to take possession of the livestock and the property and the animals that Jacob had. And all who went out of the gate of the city heeded to Hamor. And Shechem, his son, every male was circumcised. All who went out of the gate of the city. And now it came to pass on the third day. Here we are, the third day. When they were in pain, that two of Jacob's seed, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, each took their sword and came boldly upon the city and killed all the males. Did you know they were 12 and 13 or 12 and 11 years old? I didn't know that either. All we got to do is think back. All the dates are given. We just have to figure it out. It's not that hard. Well, look at this. Simeon loved his sister. In Yasher 45, it says that Simeon, his brother, took his sister Dinah for a woman. We already saw in Yasher that he took Punah. Remember, he took Punah, one of the virgin daughters of the city, beautiful face, beautiful appearance, took her to himself, made him her woman. Now, 10 chapters later, here is Simeon taking his sister Dinah for his woman, and she giving him 5 sons. Interesting. You're defiled. Can't marry the way you're supposed to marry. He took care of his sister. Almost the same way that Abram took care of Sarai, and Nahor took care of Milcah after their father Haran died. Interesting. Now it came to pass on the third day, when they were in pain, that the two of Jacob's seed, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brother, each took his sword and came boldly into the city and killed all the males. They killed Hamor and Shechem, his son, with the edge of the sword, and took Dinah from Shechem's house and went out. And Jacob's seed came upon the slain, plundered the city because their sister had been defiled. They took their sheep their oxen, their sheep, their flocks, sheep and goats, their oxen, their donkeys, what was in the city and what was in the field, and all their wealth, all their little ones, and their wives and women they took captive, and they plundered even all that was in the houses of the men they killed. They plundered their houses. Nashim, wives. We saw in Yasher, they didn't take all the women of the city. This says all the women of the city. And their children, their little ones. No, they didn't. They left the women who had been with the man in the city. Those were the ones that were crying. They plundered all that was in the houses. Tough was the children that they took. Tough. That's the word they used for children. If we were going to have the children of Israel, it would be Israel's tough. But that doesn't make any sense because Israel is the spiritually born men and their tough are their sons and daughters. Oh, we have so much to learn. Then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, "You have troubled me by making me obnoxious among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites, the Perizzites. And since I am few in number, they will gather themselves together against me and kill me. I will be destroyed, my household, and I." This is Jacob. Does this sound like a man of faith? What's up with Jacob? Is he lethargic? Well, next week we're going to talk about what I think is up with Jacob. Something is going on in his body. And I think by looking line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little and there a little, I came up with a very interesting conclusion. I'll share it with you next week. But they, his sons, said, "Should he treat our sister like a harlot?" That word harlot, look at what the word is. The word is zana. Commit adultery. We always want to make it about fornication. There's no fornication in the Old Testament. No, nowhere does it talk about fornication. We're talking about harlotry. The daughter, we kill our daughter for playing the harlot in her father's house. If we give her to a man and it turns out she's not a virgin. "You gave me this daughter and I find she's not a virgin." She could put her out in front of the house and stone her. She played the harlot. She committed adultery. Another man took her. I think the sons are displaying more faith than their father. Well, let's move on. We're going to continue where we left off in Yasher. Here it is. Let me read the last verse we read. Then all the young men and women that Simeon and Levi had taken captive from the city of Shechem were servants to Jacob's seed and to their sons and to their seed after them, until the day of Jacob's sons going forth from the land of Egypt. Going forth from the land of Egypt? They had those same men with them in Egypt. Did they set them free in Egypt? Perhaps they became Ezra men, going forth from the land of Egypt. Oh, that's very interesting. I was thinking going to the land of Egypt, but this is talking about going forth from the land of Egypt. Interesting. And when Simeon and Levi had gone forth from the city, the two young men that were left, who had concealed themselves in the city. Remember, those are the two young men we were talking about. They couldn't find them. And did not die amongst the people of the city, rose up. And these young men went into the city and walked about it, and found the city desolate without man. and only women weeping, and their young men cried, and these young men cried out and said, Behold, this is the evil which the Hebrews' sons did to the city in their having this day destroyed one of the Canaanitish cities, and were not afraid of their lives of all the land of Canaan. They were not afraid for their lives, nor of the whole land of Canaan. And these men left the city and went to the city of Tapnach. And they came there and told the inhabitants of Tapnach all that had befallen them, and all that the sons of Jacob had done to the city of Shechem. And the information reached Yasher, king of Tapnach, and he sent men to the city of Shechem to see those young men, for the king did not believe them in this account, saying, How could two men lay waste to such a large town as Shechem? How can it be? I can't believe it. You got to go check it out for me. And the messengers of Yasher came and told him, saying, We came to the city, and it is destroyed. There's not a man there, only weeping women, not even kids. They took the kids or killed the kids. Neither is any flock or cattle there, for all that was in the city Jacob's sons took away. And Yasher wondered at this, saying, How could two men do this thing, to destroy so large a city, and not one man be able to stand against them? For the like has not been from the days of Nimrod, and not even from the remotest time has the like taken place. And Yasher, the king of Tapnach, said to his people, Be courageous. What people? Men people. Be courageous, and we will go and fight against these Hebrews, and do unto them as they did unto the city, and we will avenge the cause of the people of the city. And Yasher, king of Tapnach, consulted his counselors about this matter. And his advisors said unto him, Alone thou wilt not prevail over the Hebrews, for they must be powerful to do this work to the whole city. If two of them laid waste the whole city, and no one stood against them, surely if thou wilt go against them, they will all rise against us and destroy us likewise. But if thou wilt send to all the kings that surround us, and let them come together, then we will go with them and fight against Jacob's sons. Then wilt thou prevail against them. Well, they're failing to take into account that these men are spiritual men that serve the Elohim of heaven. And Yasher heard the words of his counselors, and their words pleased him and his people, the men people. And he did so. And Yasher, king of Tapnach, sent to all the kings of the Amorites that surrounded Shechem and Tapnach, saying, Go up with me, assist me, and we will smite Jacob the Hebrew and all his sons and destroy them from the earth. For thus did he do to the city of Shechem, and do you not know it? And all the kings of the Amorites heard the evil that Jacob's sons had done to the city of Shechem, and they were greatly astonished at them. Well, we're going to stop here. Wait till you see what happens next time. 10,000 men are coming against Jacob armed with swords. How big is Jacob's house? How big is Jacob's Elohim? Ooh, it's a great story that we're going to see next week. I hope you will come and join me again. Thank you for being here today. Yehovah bless you all. You have a good day now. Bye-bye.